Next question is, the discovery of gibberellins is related with which of the following? Option A, blast disease of rice. Option B, Buckian disease of rice. Option C, early blight disease of potato. And option D, that is rust disease of wheat. See, with respect to the discovery of gibberellin, option B is the answer. Option B is the answer. Buckian disease of rice. Okay. A person by name, a Japanese pathologist, Kurosawa. He is a Japanese pathologist, one who work on the diseases. Okay, particularly is a plant pathologist, one who works on the plant diseases. So he working on a rice field. He was working on the rice field. So there he noticed that a few rice seedlings, okay, which were growing much taller is around 6 feet to 7 feet then compared to the other rice seedlings. Few of the rice seedlings, okay, they were grown a much taller when compared to the other rice seedlings. Okay, and there on the same plant body, which grown taller than the other plants. So he also noticed that the growth of the some of the fungal species, that is fungal fusarium. Okay, so it is also called as Gibberella fusiculae. So this fungal used to grow on this rice seedling plants, which were grown taller compared to the other seedlings. So he called this a tall rice seedlings as a foolish growth. He called it as a foolish growth. Actually, all the rice seedlings should be at normal height only. Okay, but comparatively, some of the rice varieties, some of the rice seedlings, okay, they grown abnormally taller compared to the other varieties. Okay, so he called it as a foolish growth of the rice seedlings, or he called as a Buckian disease. So in the meantime, Kurosawa, he reported an appearance of some of the disease symptoms in the uninfected rice seedlings. Okay, so when they treat with the sterile filtrate of the fungus, so these experiments that all led to the discovery of the gibberellin. Okay, further attempts in this same plant, they all led to the discovery of the gibberellic acids. So option B is the answer. A two person by name Yabuta and Sumuki. Okay, so they demonstrated that fungus secreted certain chemicals which were responsible for the elongation of the seedlings. Finally, they extracted the chemicals and they called them as a gibberellin. Okay, so chemically they are said to be gibberellic acid. Okay, so almost around 62 out of 62 gibberellic acids. Okay, 25 gibberellic acids have been isolated from the fungus Gibberellia fusiculae. Out of total 62 gibberellic acid, 25 gibberellic acid have been isolated from this fungus itself, Gibberella fusiculae or fusarium. Okay, So these two scientists, they contribute to the discovery of the gibberellins. Next one, discovery of gibberellin. Okay, which one of the following synthetic growth regulators is used to promote synchronized flowering in pineapple? Benzyl aminopurine, phenyl mercuric acid, indole butyric acid, 2-chloroethyl phosphonic acid. Which of the following synthetic growth regulators is used to promote synchronized flowering in the pineapple? That chemical is, that is a 2-chloroethyl phosphonic acid. Option D. It's a direct question. Okay. So 2-chloroethyl phosphonic acid, they induce the synchronized flowering in case of pineapple. Next question. Transport of cytokinin in the plant body is, transport of cytokinin in the plant body is basipital, lateral, acropital, on all sides. On all sides. Cytokinin means it's going to synthesize in the root portion. Okay. So when they synthesize in the root portion, they used to move towards the shoot apex. So that kind of transport we will say it as a acropital. Means it is just opposite to the basipital transport of the auxin. Okay. So option C is the answer, acropital. Means from the shoot apex towards the, sorry, from the root apex toward to the shoot apex. Okay. So at the shoot apex, we will see the basipital transport of the auxin. But cytokinin moves opposite towards the basipital transport of the auxin. Means acropital transport towards the shoot apex. How does pruning help in making the hedge dense? The options are, it frees axillary buds from apical dominance. The apical shoot grows faster after pruning. It releases wound hormones. It induces the differentiation of new shoots from the root stock. The word of pruning, in the sense, in the field of horticulture and in the silvicultural, okay, so it's a practice which involves a selective removal of the some of the plant portions. It may include branches, buds, or roots. Okay, so it's a targeted removal. Even it may include the removal of a damaged portion, a diseased portion, or we can say a part is a non-productive portions. Okay, let's say like this, it's a selective removal of the plant parts. So usually we seen in the horticultural area, horticultural field. So that involves the, it frees the axillary buds from the apical dominance. So this is the answer for that question. Okay. So the apical dominance can be seen. So it frees the axillary buds. Option next 115. Mimosa pudica, sensitive plant, leaf movement due to. Mimosa pudica, generally it is called as touch me not plant. Touch me not plant. So which shows a thigmotropism. Thigmotropism means a response towards the touch. Okay. So this response means the inward folding of leaflets when we touch the plant body. That is due to turgor change in the leaf base. Option D. Turgor change in the leaf base because of the water. The water is to pull backwards. As a result, the turgor pressure changes at the, the leaf base, particularly in the Fabaceae members, the leguminous members, they will be having a pulvinous leaf base and all. Okay, so the turgor changes in the leaf base can show helps in the showing of the movement in the plants. Okay, it's a touch towards the plant movement towards the touch is called as stigmotropism. Next one, flowering dependent on cold treatment is known as. Answer is vernalization. Vernalization is a chill treatment or cold treatment required for some of the plants to flowering. Okay, it is done before flowering at the seedling stages. Next, other options they are given is cryoscopy, cryostat, thermotrophy. See, cryoscopy means a process of determining the lowered freezing points, okay, which is produced in the liquids by dissolved substances to determine their molecular weight of the solutes. Okay, that is called cryoscopy. In the option B, they have taken the cryostat. Cryostat. That is a instrument used to maintain the low cryogenic temperature of the samples. So that you can see here, cryostat, this one. So which is used to maintain the a very low cryogenic temperature of the samples. The term thermotrophy, that meaning differs in different fields. When you talk about in the field of evolution, thermotrophy means some of the species which can absorb a thermal energy to convert it into food. Okay, so for this question, the option C is the answer. Next question, which of the following light receptors is responsible for absorbing blue and ultraviolet light? Which of the following light receptors is responsible for absorbing blue and ultraviolet light? So the options are phytochrome PR, phytochrome PFR, cryptochrome, phototropin. See, among the given options, see phytochrome PR, so which is activate for the red light. Phytochrome FR indicating the far red light. Okay, so here the question is, it has to be light receptor responsible for absorbing both blue and ultraviolet. So for this question, the option is cryptochrome. Okay, cryptochrome are the light receptors responsible for absorbing the blue and ultraviolet rays. Blue and the ultraviolet rays. So these cryptochromes, they are the flavoproteins. They are the flavoproteins. They are the flavoproteins actually. So which are sensitive usually for the blue light. So they usually found in the plants and in the animals. So they involved in the circadian rhythms of the plants and the animals, and also they are also helps in the sensing of magnetic field in the number of the species. Okay, so there are the things about the cryptochromes. Next, 118. Which of the following hormones can replace vernalization? Vernalization. So option B, gibberellin, which can replace the vernalization. It's a cold treatment. Next, in short day plants, flowering is induced by photoperiods less than 12 hours, photoperiod shorter than initial value, and uninterrupted long night. So this is the answer actually. For short day plants, the plant has to expose for at least 5 to 6 hours continuously for the daylight, and for long night it has to expose around almost around 16 hours of time. But in case of day plants, a long day plants, so the plant has to experience 14 to 16 hours for continuous daylight. Okay, so in case of short day plants, they have to expose for 5 to 6 hours for daylight, and they require very long night, so uninterrupted long night. Okay, so option B, photo period shorter than initial value and uninterrupted long night. Next, photoperiodism is, the options are recurrence of day and night, effect of day length on flowering plants. See, option B is the answer. Effect of day length on the on flowering of the plant body. We can say that the relative length relative length of day and night is said to be photoperiod. Photoperiod. The plant shows response to the photoperiod. Okay, that will called as a photoperiodism. That is said to be photoperiodism. Okay, so this phenomenon, the photoperiodism, it was first recognized by a two-person. One is a Garner and Allard. Garner and Allard. Okay, the first time they recognized the photoperiodism, particularly in the Marymoth, particularly in the Maryland mammoth variety of tobacco plant. Tobacco. Okay. So option B is the answer. Next one. Which one of the following factors influence the flowering in the plants? Acidity of the soil, amount of green pigment, photo period, water in soil. See, option C is the answer. Photo period can influence the flowering in the plant body. See, the leaves of this kind of plants. So the leaf portion will be act as a site of perception of light or dark duration. Okay, so they used to perceive the later dark duration. So the stimulus will be received by the pigment called as phytochromes. Phytochromes. So the phytochromes of the leaves direct the migration of a flowering hormone, that is a well-known hormone, that is a florigine. Okay, so phytochromes of the leaf, when they receive the stimulus, so they direct the migration of florigine hormone. Okay, from leaves to the shoot apex, from leaf to the shoot apex, to modify the shoot apex into flowering apex or flowering axis, what we called as a peduncle. Okay, so that's why the phototropism is required. The plant has to expose for a required length for the required light in a particular duration. So the phytochromes will get, they used to receive that stimulus when they expose for a particular light duration, and which used to stimulate the florigine, so that moves from a leaf portion to the shoot apex, where the shoot apex, which converted modified into a floral axis, so that induces the flower. So for each and every plant body, particularly the long day plants or short day plants, they are exposed for the a daylight or night for a required period of time before flowering. And but in case of day neutral plants, In case of day neutral plants, they are not dependent on the phototropic photoperiod for their flowering. They are not dependent on it. So they all comes under day neutral plants. So for this question, C is the answer. Next one. Which one of the following is a long day plant? Which one of the following is the long day plants? The options: bajra, soybean, tobacco, wheat. I can take many example for the long day plants. The example for the long day plants, we can write beta vulgaris, means a beetroot, oat, radish, spinach, radish, spinach, wheat. These are all example for the long day plants. So among the given option D is the answer, wheat. Wheat comes under long day plants. And we can take example for short day plants also. Example for short day plants, they are xanthium, cosmos, chrysanthemum, sugarcane, etc. Sugarcane, etc. For day neutral plants, we can take the example like sunflower, maize, maize, pea. They are example for the day neutral plants. Cotton, tomato. They are example for the day neutral plants. Next question. Which of the following does not normally occur when an etiolated seedling is exposed to light? Option: chlorophyll synthesis begins, the rate of shoot elongation increases, the hypocotyl hook straightens, and phytochrome is converted to phytochrome FR, forward light. See which of the following does not normally occur when etiolated seedling is exposed to the light. See, etiolated are the plants which usually grows in the shadow areas. So though in that kind of plants, usually we will see a very longer internodal length and a pale green color of leaves and folded lamina. These are the features of the etiolated plants. So which when you expose for the light, usually the rate of stem elongation will not increases. Okay, does not normally occur. Means this will not occur because in etiolated plants, the plants which are living in the shadow areas, they already will be having elongated internodal regions. So this again will not take place. So option B. Next, hormone responsible for vernalization is option C, Vernalin. Vernalin. A person by name Clippert. A person by name Clippert in the year of 1857. So actually he noticed the a requirement of cold temperature for the flowers. Actually he was working on the two wheat varieties. He was working on the two wheat varieties. So one variety is winter wheat. One variety is the winter wheat, and another one spring wheat. The two wheat varieties are winter wheat variety, and one more one is the spring wheat variety. Spring wheat variety. The spring wheat variety is sown in spring season and produces flowering in the spring. Okay. So winter variety is sown in the winter season, produces flowers in the summer season. These are the two different varieties. Okay. So, but he observed that, Clifford observed that if the germinated winter wheat are treated with a low temperature, germinated winter wheat, if you treat with a low temperature, that is around 0 to 5 degree Celsius of temperature, they behaves as a spring varieties. They behave as a spring varieties. Means this conversion of winter variety to spring variety by low temperature or by chill treatment is termed as vernalization. Okay, so it is believed that by many physiologists. So perception of a cold temperature results in the formation of a floral hormone called as vernalin. So this vernalin transmit to the other parts of the plant body and which can able to induce the flowering. Induce the flowering. Next question. Next question. Pigment taking part in photoperception flowering is. The options are like this: carotene, phytochrome, cytochrome, lycopene. So the answer for this question is phytochrome. Pigment take part in photoperception is, that is a phytochrome. So it is a best known pigment in the plant body. So which usually exists in the two forms that are convertible like this. Phytochrome is a pigment with two interconvertible forms, as I said. So here you can see the phytochrome here PR are indicating the red light and F are indicating the far red light. Okay. So there are two types, which is a known a pigment. And with respect to the cytochrome, we'll see the role of cytochromes, particularly in the ETS, electron transport system, in the respiration. Okay, so they are actually carrying of the electrons. And with respect to the lycopene, see this is the structure of the lycopene, so that you can see a red color portion of this a tomato. So actually, it is a plant nutrient. So they having an antioxidant property. Lycopene will be having antioxidant property. So that red color portion of the tomato and a pink fruit color. Okay, and in the watermelon we can see the red color, and in the grapefruits. Okay, that all color. So it is due to it is a lycopene which gives the color. Okay, so the lycopene has linked with the health benefits also, ranging from the heart health to the. They also helps in the some of the protection against the sunburns, and also they can prevent some of the cancers like this. Okay, so lycopene we can see it is a red carotenoid hydrocarbon. Okay, it is a red carotenoid hydrocarbon. Okay, so for this question the answer is B. When a dark period in SDP Chardonnay plants is interrupted by a brief exposure of light, the plant will see option A only. So the plant will not flower at all. When dark period is interrupted, okay, by a brief exposure of the sunlight, so the plant will not show flowering at all. Okay. Option, next question, 129. What is the site of vernalization? It's a repeating question again. See, the site of vernalization is option D, apical meristem. Apical meristem. Vernalization, so it is a cold treatment. So when you go for vernalization, so the a vernalin hormone, which helps in the induction of flowering in the plant body, particularly a phytochrome present in the leaves. So when they receive the stimulus, when we expose for a plant for a particular duration of light, so this phytochrome that stimulates the flourishing, hormone. Okay, means the flourishing hormone that transfer from leaf area to the shoot apex, where that stimulate a shoot apex turns into a floral axis. Floral axis. So option D is the answer. Meristem, apical meristem. So that helps in the conversion of shoot into floral axis. Next, most appropriate temperature for vernalization. So it's again a repeating question. Repeating question is it is the ranges from around 7%. 7%. Next, which of the following is the application of vernalization? See, increase the yield, increase cold resistance and resistance to fungal diseases, crops be produced earlier. So these are all the examples, all the applications of the vernalization. Okay, option D. See, when you talk about the importance of vernalization, mainly 2 points very important here. See, the vernalization which which reduces the vegetative period of development of plants, and the induces early flowering. And one more point is winter varieties crops can be convert into spring varieties by vernalization. Okay, so it's the main importance and significance of vernalization. Next, devernalization is caused by see, it is a 6 degree, 7 degree, 30 degree, and none of this. See, 30-degree temperature is a normal room temperature, almost equal to room temperature. So it is meant for the devernalization, means reversing the temperature back. Okay, so the vernalization ranges from the around 0 to 7 degree temperature range. Okay, so at this temperature, what happens? The devernalization takes place, means the temperature in the body increases up to the normal room temperature, that is around 30 degrees Celsius. Phytochrome is involved in, so the direct question again, photoperiodism. Okay, phytochrome is involved in the photoperiodism because the pigment phytochrome, they present in the a leaf portion. Okay, so the leaf contains the pigment phytochromes. So the stimulus received by the phytochromes. So when the plant exposed for the day or long light, day or dark light for a particular duration. Okay, so this phytochrome will be activated and the migration takes place from the particularly the flourishing hormone. Okay, the flourishing hormone they migrate towards the a shoot apex from the leaf. So where it helps in the modification of shoot apex into a flowering axis. Okay, shoot axis into a flowering axis. So option C is the answer. What will be the effect? What will be the effect on phytochrome in plant subjected to continuous red light? So when you subject the plant for continuous red light, the phytochrome pigment level decreases. It decreases. The response of different organisms to environmental rhythms of light and darkness is called. Again, it is a photopyridism. The response of different organisms to environmental rhythms of light and darkness is photopyridism. Next, one set of a plant was grown at 12 hours a day and 12 hours night cycles, and it flowered while the other set night phase was interrupted by flash of light and it did not flower. Under which one of the following categories you will place this plant? See, again it's a repeating question again. See, Chardonnay plants. Chardonnay plants. Chardonnay plants they require a long duration of a dark light. Okay, so usually they have to expose for the 5 to 6 hours of the continuous daylight. Okay, they need a dark phase for 14 to 16 hours. So when this dark phase, when they interrupted by a flash of lights, so that plant will not show the flowering. Okay, so D. Through their effect on plant growth regulators, what do the temperature and light control in the plants? Apical dominance, flowering, closure of stomata, fruit elongation. Through their effect on plant growth regulators, what do the temperature and light and control? See, the temperature and light they helps in the flowering in the plant body. B. Next, phytochromes are chemical regulating flowering, chemicals regulating growth from seed to adulthood, hormones regulating growth from seed to adulthood, regulators synthesized by plants, and inducing physiological process. So this is the answer. Option D. Which one is a short day plant? Which is a short day plant? The answer is glycine max. Glycine max is a short day plants. Next, a physiological response to duration of light. A physiological response to the duration of light and darkness is a, again repeating question, photopyridism. In reference to photopyridism, which one of the following is long day plants? Long day plants. Option is poppy. Poppy seeds. Poppy. Plants. Okay. In these options, xanthium. Xanthium comes under short day plants. Xanthium is a short day plant. Okay. And next one is paddy. So this paddy also comes under the short day plants and soybean. So soybean also under the short day plant only. Okay. So you accept this poppy, remaining all comes under the short day plants. Next question. Plants requiring exposure to light for less than critical period in order to flower are called long day plants, day neutral plants, intermediate day plants, short day plants. Plant requiring exposure to light for less than critical period in order to flower. See, here the light duration is very less and the dark phase is more here. Okay, so these kind of plants are short day plants. As I told, 4 to 5 hours of exposure of daylight is enough, and they need around 14 to 16 hours of continuous exposure for the dark phase. So this is for the short day plants. Next, in short day plants, flowering is interrupted when. So the dark condition is interrupted by a white light or red light. Option A is the answer. Next, in plants growing under dark condition, the leaves turns light colored, internodal becomes much elongated. It is termed as, again repeating, answer is etiolation. So etiolated plants are the plants which grows in the shadow areas where we can see a elongated internodal region, elongated internodal region which having a light colored leaves and even the tender stems, and they having folded lamina, folded lamina. So this all the features of the etiolated plants. So B is the answer. They used to grow in the shadow areas. What will be the effect on phytohormone in a plant subjected to continuous red light? See, again repeating question. The level of phytochrome decreases. Next, the factor influencing process of flowerings is, see, process of flowering. So among the given option, D is the answer. Photo period. Okay, photo period. They influence the flowering in the plant body. Okay, so in the long day plants, they have to expose for the continuous daylight for 14 to 16 hours continuously. In short day plants, they need a dark phase for 14 to 16 hours. Okay, so when they required a particular a relative daylight or dark phase, or then only they can able to flower. So D is the answer. So the photoperiodism, it was first recognized by a two-person, Garner and Allard. Garner and Allard in the a tobacco variety called as Maryland Mammoth. Maryland Mammoth. It's a tobacco variety. Tobacco variety. Next, the picture below shows a graph drawn on the parameter of growth versus time. ABC representing. Yes, see this graph showing a sigmoid curve. It's showing a sigmoid curve. So here, so this type of graph will get it for the geometrical growth. Geometrical growth. So in case of geometrical growth, when one cell divides, it forms two cells. And when they further divides, it forms four cells and 18 cells like this. So when the time proceeds, the number of cells they keep on increases in a geometrical manner. At the initial stage, the growth rate will be less, and when the time proceeds further, the growth rate, that means the amount of cells that reaches maximum, the number of the cells increases, the number of divisions increases, the growth rate increases. So the initial stage we will take it as a lag phase, and the rapid increase in the growth rate is called as the exponential phase or log phase. And when they reaches at particular point, so the growth rate becomes constant, it is a stationary phase. So in the given option, in the given option, the options are not proper actually. The options are not proper. See, first is the lag phase. I will paste the figure also. This is the right figure. See, lag phase, log or exponential phase, and stationary phase. The options are not given. Okay, let's go to next question. Refer the diagram which shows the stages of seed germination. See, it's a seed. First, they used to form a radicle. Okay, so radical, and see the seed coat used to break, which give rise to a plumule portion you can see here, and that give rise to a shoot apex. So the epicartile and hypocartile we can take. So option B is the answer. Radical, seed coat, epicartile and hypocartile regions. Next one. Which of the following shows the correct graph of arithmetic growth? So the correct graph for the arithmetic growth is B. In case of arithmetic growth, if you take the example of a meristematic cell, when meristematic cell undergoes division, it forms a two cells. Out of two cells, one cell turns into a permanent cell and one written as a meristematic. One cell written as a meristematic. Okay. So it is a one turns into a permanent cell and one written as a meristematic. In next division, the meristematic cell again divides further to form another cell, another two cells. Among this, one remain as a permanent and another one they written as a meristematic. Again, when they divides further, again one meristematic and one permanent. Again, the meristematic divides. So like this, in each division, they keeps on adding one permanent cells. In each division, one permanent cells is keep on adding. So when you draw the graph for this kind of growth, you will get a linear curve, linear graph, linear line. So it is option B. Last question in this recording. The following diagram shows 4 coleoptile setup at the start of an experiment. Which two coleoptiles will both bend towards the source of light? See, the unilateral light is emitting from this side, and this is the dark phase. Okay, there is no light falling on the coleoptile. So in these cases, see when you take the number 3, here they have done the incision, means a razor blade is inserted here. So as a result, what happens? The oxygen synthesized will, they cannot move in this site. So what happens? The concentration increases here. So that results in the growth of the cells in this a darker side. As a result, the tradition of the cells in this area, the tip of the shoot or coleoptile, they bend towards the sunlight. It is called as phototropic curvature. In this case also, in the number 4 diagram, here also same thing happens. Okay, so the cell addition takes place at the darker side. Okay, due to the accumulation of the oxygen here, because the light used to stimulate the oxygen production at the dark light, at the dark phase. So here also what happens, the phototropic curvature occurs. So 3 and 4 shows the phototropic curvature. Phototropic curvature due to influence of an oxygen. So option D. With this, I will stop this recording class.